guys, welcome back to another week of Autastic, your comedian's guide to autism. I'm one of your hosts, and my name is Kirk Smith, chatting here with my co-host and buddy,
Graham K. What up, everybody? I said what up. I never say that. Hi. It's another week of the comedian's guide to autism.
Graham's becoming a rapper.
With your boy, Graham K. And your top dog, Kirky Smith.
Hey, Special K here with Graham Dog.
Mm-hmm.
Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah. We're both Special K.
We did talk basketball for about 30 minutes. So,
yeah.
That was actually one of my nicknames, high school basketball team, Special K, which didn't have anything to do with special ed or anything. It was not anything to do with that. It was a serial reference.
Yeah,
and,
just a serial.
Listen, it was a different
bland
time.
Serial reference.
It was a different time, a more innocent
sugar.
time.
My basketball
my
nickname
KS and Special K. What were yours?
My basketball nickname, I had this Serbian coach, and I'm quite certain that he committed some sort of war crimes during the Balkan Wars and immigrated to Canada.
From the law.
And he just had this like hot temper. And he used to play and coach Vlade Divac, and he was like, Vlade Divac, he is unstoppable. Nobody can stop Vlade. And it's like, well, he's all right. Anyway, if you don't know who that is, he's just like
play Shaq. It wasn't great.
A run of them. He was decent, but anyway, he used to call me because I was always just like confused. I have ADD, OCD, and you know, and he used to just call me Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty! Because I was just confused. He'd tell me to do a play, and I'd be like, what? I'm not a morning person. Every basketball practice is always so early. Anyway.
Oh, it's funny.
How
Sleeping
you doing,
Beauty,
Kurt?
I like it. SB, great nickname for good old Grandma. Good. I'm on the high seas again, if you can hear that...
I can hear the
music.
the
I don't
drums.
know what is that called? A steel drum? Yeah.
Steel drums,
Something with a K. Isn't it Curacao? I don't know.
Curacao is the name of an island, but it might,
No, what's the other one? It's like...
I don't know.
Dang it.
Calypso.
Calypso?
That's the type of music, I believe.
Calypso.
Maybe it's a calypso drum. I don't know.
That's what I said. This is this kind of music. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good. I'm doing shows out here in the high seas. The week in review is tough. This one, as far as I'm hesitant to talk about it, but I think it's important. But I'm teamed up with another comic who is the way it works on. I don't want to say the cruise line, but you get teamed up with two different comics. There's at least two, and I had to follow a guy who said the R word several times, and then one of his closers, or a couple of his closers. The joke is he pretends to be disabled.
Oh my
disabled
God!
Voice. Yeah.
Oh my God!
And I was just couldn't believe it. I was just shocked, and I was like, I couldn't believe.
Oh, I hate.
I'm like,
cruise
what year
lines.
is this?
Yeah,
and he's a young guy.
Truly,
he's a young guy.
True, and I'm sure.
And I'm not gonna say the name because you know this guy.
He won't get fired, or anything.
And
I got fired for saying my brother has autism, and he won't get fired for saying the R word. Cruise lines are truly the dumbest audiences.
Well, you know how this works. It just depends who's listening, and the different lines are very different. And so there's some more working class lines than others, and it was on what's called a back-to-back. So it's like he's on at 11, I'm on 11:30, so I had to immediately follow his material. And I honestly was a little frustrated because I just don't want to be associated with that. I don't want them to be like, no, I get it. You're both making fun of disabled people. I'm like, no. I'm telling you stories about my life. He's making fun of disabled people. It's just like there's two completely different things.
And how do you get them to understand that? Did you what do you do to differentiate yourself?
Well, I was very I felt very lucky because I'd already done a show the night before. And done every show now. I'm doing a couple jokes. I just do a couple jokes at the end just to raise awareness. And so I felt like at least half of the people who saw me last night, at least half the people had already seen me. So they already knew. They already knew, they're already on board. And then I made a little comment about this is I waited till about 20 minutes in. I'm almost done, 25 minutes in. And then I get a little more serious, and I don't usually do it like this, but I'm like, screw it. So I was like, I have a severely disabled son. I'm draining all the energy out of the room. I'm like, I have a severely disabled son, and autism,
People
epilepsy,
stop
a few different
laughing
things going
for
on, and
a while. It's
yep,
tough. Then
people
you have
stop
to,
laughing completely.
just to let the audience know,
And then
our
to
listeners
regroup.
of the podcast.
But I feel like I have to reset.
Yeah, that's on. Let me just. So, once you're building, where you're riding a wave and building momentum, and audiences need a push start to start laughing. They don't just get a rolling laughter out of a dead stop. So once you stop a show to address something, you as a comedian are putting yourself in a hole, and then you have to almost open the show again and kickstart.
Exactly.
So it's hard. What you're doing. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
No, thanks for doing that. Because sometimes I gloss over the
Yeah.
I'm talking to you and you know what I'm talking about, but the audience doesn't know as much about stand-up, obviously.
Yeah.
I pulled it off. I went back. I did 3 more jokes. I did a closer, and then this isn't a brag. This is just as another comic. You know how this works. If you sell a lot of merch, that means they connected with you. It's not really. It's about the money, but it's also about. Okay, so if you sold 0 merch, there's a chance you didn't do well. I know it sounds a little easy, but if you don't do well, nobody's buying anything from you. Nobody wants to touch you. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to connect with you.
Yep.
They're just like, don't let that rub off on me. But I sold 10 books, which 10 is a lot for one show in the middle of the night on a cruise ship. So then I felt vindicated or validated that, okay, I did manage to get through, to cut through the noise, to offset what I would consider, and the guy's a nice guy, but I don't know how he doesn't see that that's incredibly offensive, and I don't feel like I'm in a position to. And funnily enough, he doesn't probably even remember this, but about 10 years ago, we were at the Laugh Factory together in L.A., and he was very disparaging to me about cruise ships, and now he's out here.
Oh, really?
Yes, which is hilarious. But I don't feel like it's my place to tell him, hey, what you're doing is offensive, but yeah.
Well, I do think it is your place, Kirk. I think there's no person with a better standing to say that than you. There is truly, even if he goes to his friends and says, like, this guy, can you believe? He's going to sound like a jerk. It's like, yeah, this guy with this severely disabled son said I shouldn't, it's offensive. It's like,
yeah, well, he hid from me the last 2 shows. He's like, he's like, hey, see you later, and he takes off. And so I think he knows.
He's a hack.
I
can't wait for you to tell me who it is off air when we do after this.
Oh, you know who this is too.
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited.
I wasn't gonna bring it up, but I just feel like it's really funny how like it really accentuates why I do talk about it, and why I know you've got a new hour coming up about autism, and why it is important to do these things, because there's still people doing crazy stuff where they're like, you're faking to be disabled to like, and it's not even like a one-off. You're doing a chunk of material on this? What? How? What? You don't? Huh? You don't see how this is? And then based on the fact that all these people come up to me afterwards and go, I teach special ed. I have a son. I've got a Down syndrome kid. I've got, in a theater of 600 people, there's people that are connected to this. This isn't like I don't know. This isn't like a victimless crime. You're diminishing somebody who might even be in the room, and then their families are definitely in the room. So it's like, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's important to do what you're doing. I also think that you should have him open for you every show, and you'll be a millionaire. He's like a plant. He's like an old timey like street cup game where they have like a what do they call it, like a plant in there. And he's like, oh my, and then he like discovers the ball under the thing, and then everyone goes, it's easy. And then
we're a team thing. We're a team. Yeah.
Yeah,
I had the first guy come out and make fun of disabled people like a lunatic. Unbelievable.
It is an interesting thing. Comedy is always sort of a barometer of where society's at because the audience won't laugh unless they connect with it. So, um, yeah, sometimes people laugh, and then you come on and show them that they're pigs for laughing, and that's important to show them.
Well,
that they're
I think it
wrong.
was an interesting thing because I think it did like. Now this sounds bad, and well, I'm not saying the guy's name, so it doesn't matter. But it does draw a really strong contrast, and it's like, oh wow, this is like there's levels of this stuff. There's levels of the because then it makes him look like you're clearly making fun of disabled people, and this other guy is going through it and has an authentic experience he's talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
once you hear, what I love about stand-up is, and we'll get off stand-up shortly, but I do think this is pertinent to our podcast about autism. But once you hear someone just as like a comedian just do what we call in the business like hacky stuff, and then someone goes up and does, and people laugh because they're paying money and they're like, why not? It's comedy. And then somebody goes up and is authentic, and they're like, oh, this is real. It's like eating
there's
a cheap
like,
hamburger and then a
thing.
gourmet hamburger, and you're like, oh, that's
an excellent example.
Yeah,
that's an excellent example. You eat a hamburger at a terrible place, you're like, yeah, it was good, and then you immediately go to a steakhouse, you're like, oh, this is different. There's levels to this. Yeah.
But I didn't call you steak. You realize you are just still a hamburger.
I'm not talking about me. I thought we were talking in generalities. Yeah.
No. Always you. No, but you're still in the hamburger world.
Oh man. All right, fair enough. Am I at least Shake Shack? Who am I in this analogy? Okay. All right.
The most expensive Wendy's, maybe.
The most expensive Wendy's with calypso music in the background. I'll take it.
No, you're a Shake Shack.
Oh, that's so funny. I think they turned up the music louder. That's even funnier.
It sounds nice.
How was your week, buddy?
Pretty good. I'm in my own apartment, which is nice. I can control what noise is happening around me. There's not a calypso band in my living room right now. I don't know if the audience, if your mic's going to pick it up, but my earbuds pick it up. So I don't know if we're just talking about it.
This is the
and
quietest
our
part of the ship too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off. It's a bit of a delay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, so how's JJ doing? Same old?
He's good. He's I travel out there next week in 6 days, and so I'm trying to, organize some fun activities. I'm trying to mentally. I was talking to a patron customer, an audience member last night about. Oh, how often do you see him? Like, I try to get over 4 times a year. I go out there. I'm going next week actually, and then we were talking about trying to keep the day busy so that he's happy, so there's something to do, so he's not grumpy, so that so just lining up little things. We've got a little routine now. We're going to go to the water park so he can go buy ice cream immediately before we go in, and try to buy ice cream halfway through and buy ice cream at the end. And then our IKEA trips, big boy hamburgers, the
Very
lake,
exciting. Yep.
cars running still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, should be good. How about you? How's Peter doing?
Peter's good. He's noticeably happy every time he calls. It's crazy to see. I know I've said this before on the podcast, but
it's the job,
crazy to see how much better his life is now that he has a job. And it
awesome.
just sort of signifies how important for mental health it is to find people with autism a purpose and a job. As a human being, we need stuff to do. Just socially, I just think it's so important. If I ever became very wealthy, I would start a charity that found people with autism work. It's just good. It's just good for everybody. I cannot express how happy he is compared to where he was before. He doesn't call. I have to call him now.
He's like
and
you now. He's
if
like you
I-
with your parents.
I know. If I miss him, if I miss a call, it's like he doesn't call back. He's like, "You missed me, bro." It's like, wow. Um,
I like it.
yeah, it's quite something. Anyway,
He's the hot girl in the relationship now. He calls you when he
Yes.
wants, doesn't answer
yes,
questions.
he doesn't need me. I need him. I need him. I miss my boy.
Hilarious.
But anyway, I guess he's so busy that he's canceling live, work, play activities. So they have, they have their Friday activity, and then it's important to go out and do stuff. And
He's busy with his shifts, or he's busy with what?
he's not busy with the shifts. The shifts end at like noon, and he only works 4 days a week or 3 days a week. He only works 3 days a week, folks. I think he works like 9 hours a week. It's completely changed his life. Doesn't work Mondays or Fridays, but they have these his live work play, which is the organization he's a part of that helped get him the job in the first place. But they also have social events, and he brushes them off a lot. And I just got this email from Peter to my parents and I, and the subject is "Hello to the three of yourselves." And I'll read this short email, and then I'll translate it for you after and tell you what it means. I know what it means. I know what happened without even doing any further research. So, hello to the three of yourselves. Hello to Mom, Dad, and Graham. Well, even if you didn't want to cancel going right along out with live, work, play at all, well, maybe if I was very unable to attend some of these very certain great whole outdoor live, work, play weeknight activities with some of our very nice whole live, work, play members, even for one of those very certain reasons why. Luckily, I never allowed myself to cancel, unless if Grace from Live Work Play definitely got totally updated in advance. So luckily, problem solved. So don't blame me. In case if I probably didn't become very well able to attend some of themselves for once in a while. Love, Peter. Now, what does all of that mean? What that means is,
I have no idea.
yeah, Peter canceled one of these events that he was supposed to go to, one of these social, I guess it was outdoor live, work, play events. And my parents were like,
Okay.
don't cancel these events. You need more social activity. You only work 3 days a week. You still need to see other human beings more than 3 days a week. Do the events. And they're fun, and it's good for you to socialize. And maybe you'll meet a girl. I don't know. And then Peter wrote this email telling all of us that don't worry about it. It's fine to cancel sometimes, and I give Grace plenty of notice when I do, so it's totally fine. He's trying to redirect the problem and be like, don't worry, I gave notice, so it doesn't matter that I canceled. Yeah, it doesn't matter that I canceled. They're not missing me because I gave. He's misdirecting the problem. He's trying to, he's kind of political about it. It's like, that's not the issue. The issue is that they canceled, not that you didn't give notice.
Very clever.
And so he goes, don't even blame me. He goes, luckily, problem solved. Everything's fine. Love, Peter.
Don't look over here. Look over there.
Look over there. So I didn't even respond. I just saw that. I just read the first 2 sentences, and I was just like, yeah, all right. My mom yelled at him for canceling.
You know exactly where he's going with that.
Yep. But I think it's it's something he would not have done normally. I mean, he definitely did a couple times, but he usually would look forward to those things before the job. But maybe he runs hot all day. He's like, when you look at your car and you're driving and the revs are up and it's like wee, like it's redlining. That's what his brain's doing all day.
He's revving it up.
Wee.
He's revved up.
So I think even 3 days a week at this job, he might be just a little tired, but still, he's got to do it.
I think he'll get used to it too. It might be an adjustment period.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kirk, should we do in the news? Or
we're talking about, I was just going to segue into the news, and we're talking about something that he at least can do, or he can send an email. But my son is on the more profound side of autism, what they call it. I call it more severe, but in this article they call it profound.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this was an interesting opinion piece that Grandma found in the old Spectrum News. Grandma, you want to take it away?
The old Spectrum News. This is, again, an opinion piece. That's by Allison Singer. And the title is It's Time to Embrace Profound Autism. Earlier this month, I attended the Autism Europe International Congress in Krakow, Poland, where the theme was Happy Journey Through Life. Although this sounds like an admirable goal, I would not choose the word happy to describe my daughter Jordy's life with profound autism, nor would many other families who struggle with the day-to-day challenges of life on the profound end of the autism spectrum, a reality that is largely invisible to mainstream society. Jody is minimally verbal and suffers from painful injurious behaviors, intellectual disability, aggression, anxiety, sleeplessness, and seizures. Sound familiar, Kirk?
Very familiar. Speaking of which, my son did this thing to his ear this week where he sometimes he'll get fixated on something. And it'll be like maybe a little pimple or something, and he'll pick it till it's literally a hole the size of an eraser, and now we got a real problem. Like, there's a real scab, and then he'll pick that, and it's like it just goes on and on. And self-injurious.
Oh my
That's what made me
gosh.
think of that. But go ahead, continue.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Eraser
Stop
on a pencil. I mean, not a. You got to keep talking to him about it. You can't put a Band-Aid on it because he won't. He'll rip it off. You got to keep it clean. Try to get him to stop touching it. And then, like when I called him yesterday, he'll open with, "Oh, are you okay?" and like show me his ear. I'm like, yeah, but you're doing that. Stop doing that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he says, "Are you?" For new listeners, he'll say, "Are you okay?" when he's hurt. But yeah, continue.
Yeah.
I want to hear this article. It sounds good.
Her frequent aggressive outbursts make it hard to involve her in community activities. Although she is often content and enjoys working on a farm, no one who witnesses her pulling her own hair or headbutting the wall would call her happy during those episodes. And my family and I are not happy that she will require 24-hour care and supervision for the rest of her life. My experience at the Autism Europe International Congress and my experience as a parent of a child with profound autism make me more convinced than ever that we need to bifurcate the diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder and add new diagnosis of profound autism to better serve this vulnerable and underserved population, which is consistently overshadowed by the higher functioning members of the autism community. I will 100%
This sounds like
agree with that.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've said this many times in this podcast.
Yes, you have. The first mention of profound autism in the scientific literature came in 2021 in the Lancet Commission on the Future of Care and Clinical Research in Autism report. The commission was co-chaired by Catherine Lord, George Tarjan, Distinguished Professor of Psychiatry at the Semel Institute of Neuroscience and Human Behavior at the University of California, Los Angeles. Sounds like he's got good credentials. I also served as one of more than 30 commissioners. The report stated that the term profound autism is critical to distinguish people who have high dependency needs from more verbally and intellectually able population of people with autism. In reviewing the several data sets of people with autism, the Lancet Commission estimated that close to 50% of the autism population falls into the category of profound autism. This means that for every autistic person trying to get a job at Microsoft, there's also one who cannot grasp the abstract concept of what Microsoft even is or does. Families like mine who face profound autism have advocated for this distinction for quite some time. We strongly believe that the breadth of the autism spectrum has become unwieldy, and the phrase autism spectrum disorder has become such a big tent term that the people under that tent often have little in common with one another. Autism can mean genius or an IQ below 30. Autism can mean highly verbal or nonverbal. It can mean graduating from Harvard Law School or exiting high school with a certificate of attendance. If we're going to be able to personalize our approach to care, as the Lancet Commission report suggested, We need terminology and language that are specific and meaningful rather than terminology that lumps everyone together. The neurodiversity community's success at drawing attention to its issues, little pat on the back of ourselves in this podcast, which we started almost 6 years ago, drawing attention to these
Woohoo!
issues has led many without deep experience with autism to conclude that those issues are representative of everyone. To the broader public, the word autism now only describes the more verbal, traditionally skilled, visible end of the spectrum. Because people who meet those criteria are able to have a voice, attend conferences, represent themselves at policymaking meetings, and appear in the media, the result is that autistic people with severe intellectual disabilities and most challenging behaviors have become invisible and been left behind. The blind spot was painfully illustrated to me in the Autism Europe International Congress, where the vast majority of delegates represented the higher functioning end of the spectrum and yet claimed to speak for everyone with autism. Many delegates became visibly angry over some of the terms presenters used in their talks to describe autism traits, such as patient, disability, and even intervention. Many took to social media to bash these scientists. Others worked. Others walked out of the room. Wow. But these words are necessary and correct. My daughter consumes medical services that make her a patient. She has a disability. If she didn't, she wouldn't qualify for services. The same is true for so many other families who suffer, yes, suffer, from profound autism. There were several instances at the conference in which the presenters gave evidence in this growing dichotomy. The most vivid was the keynote address by Brian Boyd, William C. Friday Distinguished Professor of Education at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, titled Reconceptualizing Repetitive Behavior in Autism. Boyd presented two videos to represent different types of repetitive behaviors. The first showed an autistic adult who had parlayed his special interest into a job and who spoke eloquently about the challenges of socializing and how he values his alone time. The second video was preceded by a trigger warning, greeted with oohs and gasps from the audience, who immediately criticized on Twitter as it showed profoundly autistic child engaging in self-injurious behavior. The video reflected a normal day for many families with profound autistic child, but
Yeah.
who can't, as Boyd suggested, the attendees might do, cover their eyes and ears to hide from what's happening around them. In those who purport to represent and speak for the full autism spectrum can't even observe for a few seconds the daily behaviors many with profound autism experiences. How can they advocate for their needs? Boyd rightly pointed out that these two people need vastly different types of interventions as they face vastly different situations. What he described were, in fact, two extremely different types of autism. This is a well, actually, you know what? I'm going to finish it. I'm going to do it. Similarly, her
Yahoo!
keynote address, Lord showed data on the outcomes of people with autism based on a 30-year.
Who is this Lord? Catherine Lord, who's been on our podcast many times. All right, continue.
Is it? I just glossed over that. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's on her twice. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't. I mean, I'm reading, but yeah, I know. I remember her being on. Anyway,
Yeah.
similarly, in her keynote address, Lord showed that data on the outcomes of people with autism based on a 30-year longitudinal study, the outcomes of those with low IQ scores who likely would qualify for the profound autism diagnosis were drastically different and far worse than the outcomes of those who are high functioning. And when asked how people in this study felt about their future, verbal young adults cited mood, anxiety, and depression as core factors of their happiness, whereas The parents of less verbal young adults describe difficulties with aggression as key determinants. In short, if we are going to meet the needs of people with different types of autism, we need very different types of interventions based on their functional level. One of the themes of the Autism Europe International Congress was called for greater participatory research. At the meeting, this meant research being done by and with input from high functioning adults with autism, but not from parents. Much of the research and delegates called for focused on mental health and well being. But when it comes to the type of research needed, there are dramatic differences in priorities between verbal autistic adults and parents of profoundly autistic people, as Lord articulated. According to the several delegates and posts on Twitter, any intervention research, behavioral and pharmacological, is ableist, neuronormative, and pathological. Yet this is exactly the type of research families with those profound autism want, need, and deserve. On the other hand, if the profound autism community studies determines of autistic flourishing are viewed as luxuries as families struggle to meet their children's basic needs and keep them physically safe. Another theme at the conference was the need to use neutral, non-threatening language. Several presenters actually amended their slides in the last minute to remove any trace language that might get them called out by neurodiversity advocates on social media. Soon, they may be afraid to present scientific findings at all for their fear of being canceled. There is nothing beneficial or even neutral about cleansing the words needed to describe the scientific and practical realities of autism. Such so-called neutral language robs the community of the ability to even describe the day-to-day lives of people with profound autism. Although it is regrettable that some people are triggered by reasonable terminology, no one should have the power to censor language to exclude the observable realities of autism. Scientists and advocates need a full semantic toolbox to describe what is happening in the real world. Pretending people with profound autism don't exist by eliminating the language to describe their symptoms is itself ableist. Unlike the entities in Boyd's presentation, we cannot cover our eyes, in Boyd's presentation, we cannot cover our eyes and ears to the reality of profound autism. After speaking to many of the Congress delegates and presenters, it seems clear to me that broad autism community, as currently defined, will never agree on priorities, needs, or language. It is time to admit that lumping everyone together along one spectrum has created rancor and ill will. I love rancor. I got to use that more. There are real-world implications for people with profound autism when high-functioning advocates seek to defund and deprioritize medical research, block access to treatment and clinical care, censor necessary and accurate scientific language, and advocate for policies that cause real harm for those who will not and cannot ever live independently. Only by returning at the least two separate diagnoses can we begin to meet the highly diverse needs of both groups. I want to say two things about this. For the most part, I completely agree with the thesis of this article. I do think she makes a couple leaps here where she's saying that this sort of for lack of a better word, over wokeism and canceling. Like I've never heard of a scientist being canceled to the point where they're stopping research on profound autism. She's sort of making a bit of a leap there that it could happen or it has happened.
I don't. Well, but like Jill, our roving reporter Jill Escher, who funds a lot of this, not a lot, but she helps fund some of this research, has talked about, people coming after her on Twitter for just describing. I think the part that really bugs
Twitter.
me is when
Twitter,
people,
and those people are
And that's how they're trying to cancel people. Twitter.
Sure, but no one's on Twitter, and I don't think that they're stopping research. I think that these people who are doing that sort of thing, I need to know, and I do think that it needs to be bifurcated, and it's a completely different thing. I mean, like, it obviously is. I remember back in the early '90s, the hospital diagnosed my brother with autism, and they sent us home with a VHS tape of the guy from MASH who's got an autistic son, and it was like showing all these people with severe autism and higher functioning people. My dad just watched it and he said, "This isn't my son." It doesn't make me feel any
I don't know, but
sense of community
I feel like you're making her point. Where for people like your not your son, your brother, there needs to be a different tape, different.
I know.
VCR tape,
I'm
because
agreeing
for
with her
people like
point.
my
I am
son-
making her point. I'm trying to
Okay.
make her point.
Yeah.
I said I agree with her.
I
For example, here's what happened to my dad. But what the thing is like,
Right.
I don't. I just think that a couple scared, hurt parents on Twitter we're just blowing stuff out of proportion in terms of like
Well, it's not
it
a
sucks
couple.
that these.
It's more than a couple because I get. I mean, I know I've gotten more than a couple messages myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a couple parents. It's people that see it from their point of view that are like, you should let people with autism speak for people with autism. Yeah, that works good if the people can speak. If they can't even speak, who's to raise the voice for them, right? I mean, to me, that's the most obvious rebuttal of that is, so who speaks for JJ? Because JJ is nonverbal. Well, he should be able to have an agency for himself. He's unable to have agency.
unable.
That's the whole problem.
And Peter,
So who advocates for the people that don't have a voice? Your brother is like right in the middle. Where
Peter can't.
He's not
Peter
getting
can
a job
speak.
at Microsoft.
Peter can't.
Right.
Peter can speak,
And
but
he
he
can-
can't
he can-
speak
he can
for
write an
himself.
email.
He doesn't have
Right.
the abstract idea of what that means. He can't count. He can't count.
Right.
So
And like respectfully, that email that he wrote, it's great that he can write an email, but to the average person, I wasn't clear on what he was getting at.
it makes no sense.
So he's like he's right in between.
Yeah.
He can write for himself, but it's not clear. I
You
don't
want-
know what he's
yeah,
talking about.
he's
You
going to
know.
advocate for
Yeah,
himself.
his immediate family knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I agree. I mean,
just think to
I
me it's
agree.
like a long overdue issue that it's like this whole like it's not a disability, it's just neurodiversity. No, it's not. There's a good chunk, over half, like she said, for every person that gets a job at Microsoft, there's another person who doesn't even understand what Microsoft is.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you try to like shame somehow people into like, you're being intolerant or how dare you call it a disability or how dare you, that part I don't love.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. 100%. I don't love it either, and you shouldn't. And I understand why parents like you are upset, and you deserve to be upset. And I'm upset for you.
Because people, when they talk about like, oh well, it's just like, oh, he needs a. You take somebody who, I got a young lady came up to me after the show, beautiful, lovely young girl, probably 25. Oh, I have autism. I just graduated from this school. I want to be a doctor. That's lovely. That is not my son. He's not just graduated from college, gonna be a doctor. And so I'm not belittling the set of obstacles in front of her, but what she faces and what my son faces are completely different. And the kind of services she's going to need at 35 as a doctor and the kind of services my son's going to need as somebody who still soils himself are completely different.
Yes.
So,
and also my brother.
Sometimes he makes it to the toilet. Sometimes he doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And also my brother. She is more independent than my brother. My
I
brother will
agree.
need governmental and family help intervention his entire life. He will die if he's left to his own devices, period. So
yeah, you joke about, oh, you need to work because you don't want to be homeless when we were talking about trying to motivate him. But the reality is without infrastructure, without parents or government, he would be homeless. He's not capable, 9 hours a week, you're not holding down an apartment.
No.
That's not enough money to live.
It's a bold-faced lie that I did.
In love. It's a loving lie. You're trying to motivate him.
Yeah. But
I just think I'm 100% on board with this lady. I feel like it's about time, and I'm tired of like people with high functioning people with autism trying to bully parents and family members of severely disabled people. Oh, you don't speak for them. They can speak for themselves. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Clearly they can't speak for themselves.
Yeah, maybe
Otherwise,
learn what
I'm
autism
not here
is.
doing this.
Yeah. I know you have autism,
Yeah.
but maybe learn what autism is. I know your son has autism, but learn
Yeah,
what it
and-
means. It's a spectrum. The fact that when she
It's a
described
really
those
wide
people
spectrum,
walking
really
out
wide.
of the they're just getting up and walking out, I'm like I'm
to
like
protest. I'm like,
I'm
what are you
furious.
talking
I'm absolutely furious.
about? Yeah.
Like right now.
And you don't want to. You don't want to
Scumbags.
look. You don't want to look at you cover your face. You don't want to
Yeah.
look at somebody doing self-injurious thing. Well, what are you, an ostrich? The fact that you cover your face doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah.
I mean, cover your face if you want, but acknowledge that it's real.
Yeah.
Like, just hiding doesn't make it go away. What a
Yeah.
great solution. Idi Amin comes to kill you. Like, oh, I'm hiding my face. I can't see it.
Yeah.
That's not going to fix anything.
I shouldn't have called them
So,
scumbags.
I don't know.
They're going through. They've had a harder life than me, and I'm
Deeply,
being an idiot.
deeply
but-
troubled, confused people. Yeah.
Well, they're just
There's confused.
scared and sad, and trying to protect their kids, and people go crazy.
Yeah,
when
there's
that
confused. I think,
Um,
what's the expression? Like, I love people. I hate, what is it? I
Groups?
love every person. I hate people. Because, like, yeah, you get one person, you explain your condition. I explain my son's condition. Oh, they totally get it. And then you get a group of people that attack you on whatever for like, oh, he's belittling What are you talking about? I'm not belittling anything. It's like,
No.
yeah, so.
Oh well, I guess the world's not perfect.
This is a long one. Sorry. I
subscribe
got
to
on
our
my high
Patreon.
horse here at the end.
I should have read half the article, but I was in a zone. I felt like I did a good job that time. Only a couple mess ups.
Did a very good job. And honestly, it was one of the more interesting ones, at least for me. I really.
Yeah,
I feel like
when
it's
I
something
saw
that
that,
we've kind of touched on, but we really needed to dive deep, and I really thought it was a good article.
so, yeah, good. I'm glad you liked it. I saw it and I thought of you. I was like, Kirky's gonna like this
Yeah,
guy.
you did a good job, Graham.
Patreon.com/autastic. Give us a buck. And also, I have a comedy show coming up in Ottawa on the 22nd. If you want to come see me,
Woohoo!
hit me up. I'm gonna post once the website's up. It's not up yet, but on the 22nd of December, 2022, in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I'm going to put it on my website, grahamk.com. And also, already on my website, you can buy tickets for my show in Toronto on the 29th of December. I'm going to be doing, and both of these shows are going to be, I'm going to do basically all my autism material. I don't know if it's going to be a full 45 minutes, but it'll be at least half an hour. And then the rest I'll just fill in with, jokes about me failing at dating. But anyway,
He's got hours of that. Hours.
yeah. Kirk's sort of diagnosed me as having autism. So maybe it is autism material. Maybe that's why I'm single.
Well, that's the long reveal in this podcast. Graham, you might have autism.
Anywho, 22nd and 29th. Also, if you live in the Dallas, Fort Worth area, I am going to be performing at the Dallas Comedy Club on December 9th and 10th. So that's coming up real soon. December 9th and 10th. Dallas. Come check me out. Dallas Comedy Club. Once again, those tickets are available at Graham
Is that
K.
TK Madison's new spot?
I don't know. GrahamK.com.
All right, fair enough.
So check me out. Turkey?
I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell you every week, guys. You would do me a big favor, a big solid, if you would click that little subscribe button on YouTube. I'm putting out
me
little
too.
shorts and also
Do it for both of us.
also on Facebook too. That would do me a big favor if you could click that follow on Facebook. That's it, guys. Have a great week. You can do it.